May 5th, 2021, Building Code Board of Appeals, regular meeting. Kathy, would you do roll call, please?
Mr. Abathera?
Here.
Ms. Brooks?
Here.
Are you on mute, Mr. Deserman?
I couldn't hear you. I'm having a hard time hearing you, Kathy.
Present, Mr. Deserman, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Friesen?
Present. Kathy, can you pull your mic down?
Yes, I can. Yep, thank you, thank you.
And Mr. Miller, thank you very much.
Here.
Quorum present.
Good. First thing we'll have is Jackie. Can you read the suspension of the Building Code Board of Appeals bylaws, please?
You're on mute.
Give me one moment, please.
Okay.
I just want to read a larger version of it. Proposed resolution to conduct electronic meeting. Resolved that the Troy Building Code Board of Appeals hereby allows its members and members of the public to participate in public meetings by electronic means as allowed by Public Act 228 of 2020 and in accordance with Troy City Council Resolution 2021-04-048, declaring a local state of emergency and determining that an in-person meeting could detrimentally increase exposure of board members and the general public to COVID-19. The allowance to participate in public meetings shall continue until the Troy City Council lifts the local state of emergency or through December 31st, 2021, whichever is earlier. Members participating electronically will be considered present and in attendance at the meeting and may participate in the meeting as if physically present. However, members must avoid using email, texting, instant messaging, and other such electronic forms of communication to make a decision or deliberate toward a decision. Resolved that the Troy Building Code Board of Appeals hereby establishes public participation rules for any eligible virtual meetings to provide for two methods by which members of the public can be heard by others during meetings. Email sent to BCBA public comments at troymi.gov and received by 9 a.m. on the day of the meeting will be read during the public comment period of the meeting. Voicemail left at 248-524-3546 and received by 9 a.m. on the day of the meeting will be played during the public comment period of the meeting. Both email and voicemail, pardon? Did someone interject? Both email and voicemail public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each.
Okay. Next one will be the approval of the minutes of the February 3rd, 2021 meeting. Somebody want to approve them?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this is Kathy. I believe you have to vote on that suspension of the bylaws.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Roll call. Okay.
So I want to put a motion together for the bylaws. Anybody?
Move to approve.
I'll
Second.
it. You got it? Kathy, could you do the vote, please?
Ms. Brooks,
Yes.
Mr. Deserman,
Yes.
Mr. Friesen, did you hear me, Mr. Friesen? Do you say yay?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Abathera,
Yes.
motion carries.
Next one, we'll go to the approval of the minutes of the February 3rd, 2021 meeting. We have someone to,
This is Matt. I will take a motion to approve.
Teresa will second.
Kathy, take the vote, please.
Mr. Deserman,
Yes.
Mr. Friesen,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Abathera,
Yes.
Ms. Brooks,
Yes.
motion carries.
We'll move to our first case, a variance request for 1525 East Maple. Esther Gayfield. Is Salim, do you want to tell us about this real quick?
Sure. Yes. This item is postponed to the VCBA June 2nd, 2021 meeting. due to the COVID-19 publication changing deadlines, the public notice publication date was missed, therefore not satisfying the legal requirements of the City of Troy law.
Okay. I have to ask first, is there any public meeting, any public hearing on this? Is there anybody from the public, or do we have any, Jackie, do we have anything from the public?
No public comment has been submitted for that case.
Okay. So this one has to be postponed. Does anybody want to put a motion forward to postpone it to next month?
So moved, Mark Miller.
Sandy, second.
Kathy, please take the votes.
Mr. Friesen,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Apithera,
Yes.
Ms. Brooks,
Yes.
Mr. Deserman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, we're going to move to our second one. It's a variance request for 914 Eckford Drive with Lisa Ruffin. Would you please tell us, Salim, about this?
Most certainly, Gary. This property is an interior lot of the R1C zoning district. Per Chapter 83 fences /2 fence construction is in a residential area. A indicates that in the residential areas, no fence shall be constructed to the height of more than 6 feet above the existing grade of the land. The petitioner is requesting a variance to install an 8-foot vinyl privacy fence in the backyard away from property lines where the city code limits the height to 6 feet.
Okay. Is the petitioner in, Lisa?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, could you tell us why you need this variance, please? Lisa, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay, this is Maverick. He's 6 months old. My house backs up to woods and we have coyotes. And so coyotes pretty much use my way, my front of my house, the back of my house as a pathway. So I want to install a fence so that, you know, he can go out in the backyard and feel protected. And I know he's protected.
Okay. Why do you need 8 foot over 6 foot?
Coyotes can jump over 6 feet. I've done research and they can clear 6 feet easily.
Okay. Does anybody on the board have any questions for Ms. Ruffin?
I had just one question, I guess sorry, Barry, is that good?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Sandy. I'm sorry.
I know this is a really long lot. Is this lot go all the way to the commercial lot behind it, or is there another residential lot between there and the commercial lot?
It
Go ahead,
is
Sling.
residential, but
Salim?
all, some,
Yeah.
can you show my backyard? Can you show my backyard?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to inform first that I did
Yeah.
an analysis of the distance for all 3 sides. And I have, for the back lot, it is to 873 Clarber, which is residential, and it's 272 feet away from her fence. And it's also blocked by trees. Half of her lot has trees. So I also checked to the side lots, to the one 944, the distance about 25 feet, but there is a barrier of evergreens that are 10 feet high. And to 8882 Eckford Street, it's 100 feet away from visual. So I just want to share this analysis ideas of the distances from that fence to the neighboring lots.
Okay.
So it's not going to block anyone's view. It's strictly my whole backyard. As you can see, it's all enclosed.
Salim, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
The fenced-in area is only 35 by 40 feet? And is that
It's right here. Yeah, so what happens, it goes from her house, 35 feet, then 40 feet, and then another 35 feet returning to her house. So it's an interior fence. The lot is much bigger than that. So
right.
It's just to contain her dogs into that.
So you're saying
I'm not trying to do the entire backyard. I just want enough of a section that they can
Okay.
go out in the backyard, and I can go out in the backyard.
Salim, a question for you. So you're telling me from the backyard to her back property, from the back of the fence, the back of the property line was 100 feet? Is that what you're
I know
saying?
it's a lot more than that. 1 second. Give me a second. It is 270 feet.
Okay. And each
From-
side is probably,
Yeah, the one that's the closest is
Yeah.
25 feet, but she has 10 feet evergreens,
okay,
which are marked much taller than the fence itself, so they can't even see the fence.
okay. All right. I have anybody have any questions on this? For either Salim or the petitioner?
I do, Gary. This is Matt.
Matt, I can't find you there. Okay, go ahead, Matt.
So I'm trying to look at what you have up here on the screen here, Salim. I believe you're controlling this, right? So
Sure, yes.
what is the distance? Okay, so you have a tree line that's marked there in green on the backside of the lot.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the white area of the fence area? Is the green area fenced in yard? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's right.
Is the proposed or?
Right, where it says fence is where
Yes.
the fence is.
So what's the
white
setback
area is
from,
just-
from the fence, the back of the fence to the back of the lot?
Oh, that's 270 feet. Still
From the
from this
back of the
point right
fence?
here
Yeah.
to the back of the lot, 270 feet.
Oh, it's 270 feet from the back of that fence where their proposal is to the, right.
To the
And
neighbor, yes.
But under the code for the city though, if from my understanding that, isn't it within the backside of their house, isn't it like within 10 feet of the, or less than, if that, at what point are they required to have that permit for the fenced in, for the fence itself?
It's just the difference of the 6 feet to a higher fence, that's all.
So
Yeah, they
even,
go-
even at the height purpose for the permit, that's the only reason.
The variance is only the height, that's all.
Okay, because I thought there wasn't a height restriction, but there is now on that
There
code?
is
Okay,
6
I have to read that again. Okay. Thank you.
Well,
Teresa? Teresa, are you there?
I'm here.
You remember, it's been at least 10 years we had a coyote fence over on Bradley Street. Just exactly like this. They fenced in an area like this to keep the coyotes out because of their dogs. And I
I'm
drove by
so
there.
glad you remember. I don't.
Well, I drove by there the other day and you can't even see the fence from the road or from either side. So, but that was the first fence we had that would, people talked about coyotes jumping a 6 foot, but they can't jump over an 8 foot fence. So, I mean, we've had it before in the city. And I'm thinking that we just had it a couple years ago on, what was it, Kilmer or Talbot, where they put an 8 foot fence between two houses because of the grade change. Do you remember that one?
That was a grade change, yes. And you could see over
Yes. you
from
could
one
see-
patio to the other,
Yep.
yes.
All right. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Yeah,
or
So this is Matt again here, Gary.
Yes, sir.
Sorry to. So if the petitioner actually, from what you and Teresa were just saying, if the petitioner actually built up this area with a berm per se, right? Fill dirt, berm, built it up a foot or two, and then put a 6 foot fence, would there be any requirement for a permit?
once you alter the land, normally we have to get a review by engineering because now you change the flow of the water. So we start with a permit for the berm first. So that could, once the berm is approved, well, that'll be the grade of the land. So yeah, it wouldn't. But it had to be approved by engineering, of course.
that
Even though
meant-
it's within their property range right there, they're not allowed to put that berm in there.
Well, they are allowed to do it, but it has to go through engineering, so we don't redirect the water and stormwater to the neighbors.
Okay, Matt,
Yes, sir.
anytime you bring in more than, I think it's 50 yards of soil, you have to get a permit from engineering, draw plans, show what you're doing, why you're doing it,
Okay.
and everything. It's a
Thanks, Gary.
required flow permit.
I appreciate the info.
Jackie, do we have any public comment on this?
Gary, I had a question.
Okay,
Sorry.
Mark.
All right, so this is Mark Miller, and I have a preamble and a question, okay? I do not project to be a coyote expert at all, although I have sat through some presentations by DNR people. And so literally in this meeting, I Googled how high can a coyote jump, and it led me to a, sorry, my website just crashed, which I was looking at. Okay, it led me to a website for the city of Dublin, Ohio, which I have been to. It's a high performance city, kind of like Troy. And on their website, it says coyotes can leap to up to about 3 feet in the air. However, they can climb over just about any size fence by jumping up and using their back feet to climb up and over. For those fences 5 feet or higher, you can keep coyotes out by installing a roller bar on top. Coyote rollers are available for purchase in some stores, but you can make one on your own by installing 1 1/2 inch to 3 inch PVC pipe over a metal bar mounted between each fence post. When the coyote tries to grab the top fence, the PVC pipe spins around the metal bar and they roll backwards to the ground. So my question is,
Yeah, those are called coyote rollers.
yeah, okay.
Exactly.
But Ms. Ruffin, I didn't ask my question. My question is, where did you get your facts?
I got my facts from Googling, from reading the newspaper, from watching, matter of fact, about a month ago on Channel 4, they had where this woman had a 6-foot fence and the coyote just cleared it. And she had, lucky enough, she had just brought her dog in. And matter of fact, it showed the dog at her patio glass trying to look in to see where her dog went. So I have done research, and I do know they can clear 6 feet, and I have seen about the coyote rollers.
Ms. Ruffin,
I've been going through this for over 2 years. I wanted to make sure whatever I put up was going to be safe for them.
is there a reason why you didn't submit that information to us? Because like I said, your
Which
research,
information?
the reason, okay, I just researched it, and it does not comport to what you verbally just told us. And what I had asked you was, why didn't you submit your background information about coyotes?
Well, what I did was they asked me to put down the reason why I wanted to have a fence, and I said because of coyotes. Coyotes, as a matter of fact, 3 days ago, there was a fox in my backyard, and he went around to the front. So those are my dogs. So yes. So all they asked me to do was submit the paperwork, tell the reason why I have seen coyotes and foxes in my yard. They're a threat to the safety and health of my dogs. So they never came back and told me to submit any type of research that I had done.
Okay, Mark, does that answer your question for her?
No, but that's okay.
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts or questions on this? So, Mark, your thought is if she put a 6-foot fence up with roller bars for coyote bars, that would be, you feel that that's a sufficient thing?
Well, I only put 30 seconds of research into it.
Okay.
My point is, I'm not convinced that this is going to solve the problem. In my childhood, I had a dog that could climb fences all the time. So I'm not convinced that this is going to solve the problem necessarily. In fact, what is listed on the City of Dublin, Ohio's website is coyotes can only jump 3 feet. So I'm just not convinced that this is going to solve the problem. So I don't think, if I don't receive any additional information, I don't think I can vote for this request.
Okay. Teresa.
This is a isolated area. She has a buffer between her and her neighbors, both by distance and by foliage. The rollers may be something that maintenance wise deteriorates over time. 8-foot vinyl fence does not need as much maintenance. So those are just my comments.
Okay. I will agree. Go ahead, Teresa, I'm sorry. You got your hand up. No? I will kind of agree with you, Teresa, that, you know, the rollers could deteriorate over time and not roll the one time the coyote gets on it. Her fence won't be seen from neighbors on any sides. And I'm sorry, but Jackie, did you say you had any public comment? I kind of got sidetracked there for a minute.
That's okay. There's one public comment, and that's going to be part of your packet. It is a letter from a resident who is in support, and it is part of the packet.
Where does that person live in relation to the?
Salim, if you could scroll down to that letter. Oh, great. It's got kind of got right there. There you go. There's the letter of support.
It seems to be the next door neighbor then. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
Whatever it's worth, Gary, it's across
Go
the
ahead,
street.
Sandy.
That house is across the street. That's all.
Yeah, because the side house is 882, 8944.
Okay.
I'm sorry, this is Matt.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you scroll down there, Celine, please? Is that a picture of the backyard right there?
Yes.
Okay, so if the proposed fence is really to butt up to the back of this house, is that correct?
It's on the
this
back
patio?
side. It's 35 towards the back, and it's 40 feet wide. So it
So
was
it's going to butt,
from,
they're proposed to butt it up to the house, correct?
correct. This is the other side.
Yeah, and I think, if my opinion counts anyway, I think the one thing that I'm kind of where Mark is on this, and I think that, like, I'm not sure that this is going to resolve any long-term issues with the height. I think that, you know, we're trying to throw something at. I just don't see this being the full resolution. I think we're just we're stabbing in the dark at something here. I mean, I think if you were to put the arborvitae's around a 6-foot fence to give you a height, you know, difference where it would make it impossible for stuff to, you know, to get over, I could see that being helpful to you. And you don't need permits to obviously plant materials like that, but I just don't see the 8-foot making that much of a difference. I mean, I what Mark said too about rollers or something, that if that is an attraction, I mean, I think that's what a height of about 4 or 5 inches on an additional 6-foot fence. So if there was a proposal for a fence variance for 6'6", I would be okay with that, to give that option there. But other than that, I can't see myself going forward with that 8-foot, even though that the privacy is there currently, but we just don't know the future of that privacy.
But I have a question. So even though, you know, this is my property, it's going into my backyard, it's not going to interfere with any of the neighbors. I have privacy on both sides and the back of my house. I don't understand the issue of why this would be an issue. So if these are my pet, these are my children, my child, and I want him to be safe, I'm not really understanding why you all would be hesitant to approve this.
We haven't voted on it. Mrs.
We haven't
Ruffin,
voted on it, that's true. But
we're all
you gotta
just
look-
discussions.
Right, we're having discussions, Ms. Ruffin, and I think one thing that you have to look at and consider is that your approval or your, proposed fence is obviously something above and beyond the code. So what we look for is how we set a precedence on that too, right? So it's setting a precedence for the rest of the city if everybody wants 8-foot fences, or because they all feel they're afraid of coyotes or they have dogs or something of that nature. We have always looked at the code as something that we set forth for the city to be a welcoming, for the rest of the community and not just one person, right? I guess if that makes any sense.
No, I understand. And I think if I lived in the subdivision, I would understand you being hesitant. But as I said, I've seen the coyotes in my backyard. I've seen the coyotes in my front yard. I've seen the foxes in my yard. I'm not really sure. Like I said, I've done research. This is not something that I've thought about doing like the last couple of months. I've thought about this because it costs money. So it's taken me 2 years to do research.
Mr. Ruffin, we're in our discussions right now.
Okay.
Let us discuss it, and if we have any questions for you, we'll ask you for it, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sandy, do you have something there?
No, I think I understand.
I can't see everybody on my screen, and I can't get to move up and down. Salim, I have a question for you, though. If Mrs. Ruffin were to build a tennis court in her backyard, and you put 10-foot fence around it to keep the tennis balls from flying out like they do, would you need a special permit for that? Would you need to be for a variance for that?
You're allowed to have fences that high, for example, for nuisance or something that could be dangerous for kids to jump into that area. And you wouldn't need a special permit for it, no.
So you could put a 10-foot fence around a tennis court without a special permit?
For what I understand, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. I mean, I feel that she's got a small enough area, 35 by 40 foot. If she's going to feel safer with an 8-foot fence for her dogs, because as she says, they're like her children, and she's so far from the lot lines, I personally don't see anything wrong with it, but I'm just one person with one opinion on it. It would be different, I think, if she was 5 feet off of a lot line and the neighbors could see it and neighbors were complaining about it, but her house hides everything from the road. And she's so far from the backyard that no one's going to see it. And the two sides, I don't think there's any vision on seeing it, because it is coming to the back of her house. Yes, Sandy.
I was just going to ask, I generally agree with what you're saying. The only thing I'm curious is, Salim, do you have the actual Alta survey or plot of this? Because this drawing here is well out of scale and it's a little difficult, I think.
Yes, I have it. 1 second, please. Let me find it.
Just a sense. I mean, certainly to the south. To the south.
Yeah, this is the size of the lot. It's huge. So the property is right here. So
yeah, I was just wondering if you had the one with the house on it. That's all.
I do, but I cannot. Let me try to see, because this Zoom meeting is a little different than the other one. Let me try if I can change the image. Okay, 1 second.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, Sandy.
Yes, sir.
Sharing.
If you look at the at that thing, the lot's 446 feet deep, and the house sits back 120 feet. Looks like. So there's a lot of room.
Can you see that?
1 second.
Yeah. Yeah, and so this is better, and obviously the I know north is to the right, I think, on that image, but obviously to the south you've got a mile and you got trees and it's fine. You've got even to the west it's pretty far. It is a little close to the east. I don't know what that dimension is, but it feels like it's pretty small.
Yes. So I have the dimensions here. The one if you look at the lot from the front to the left, is 25 feet. To the lot to the right is 100 feet. And
can you expand that window, Salim, into your? Because it's too small.
No, yeah. What happens? It's the size of the PDF. What happens here? Lot is very long, so I do have a normal, but it's too small. But this is the distance that we have, and as I was showing, let me show you the plot plan. Give me 1 second. Please. Can you see this image now?
Yeah, we see your
Okay.
PDS on the server.
The plot plan is really long. So as I was saying, the houses around this area. And so are the adjacent houses. So we have more than 50% of green area towards the back, this wooded area.
Answer your question, Sandy?
Sure.
Okay. Matt, you get your hand up?
You brought up a great point, Gary. I mean, I thought I asked that earlier in reference to the code coming off the back of the house and asking the height requirements on that. So why this needs a permit and why what you're saying, because that's what I believed I read before. So reading that and not understanding the variance permit request for this, being that you can add a 10-foot tennis court fence, I guess I'm not understanding that from why this is being asked for a permit on that side then.
Okay.
But thank you for bringing that up, Gary.
Anybody else on the board have any more questions or comments? Does anybody have any questions or comments for the petitioner?
Gary, this is Mark Miller. I have a question.
Yes, Mark.
Has the petitioner considered other alternatives, and what were those alternatives?
I considered, because of the cost, I did consider putting in a 6-foot fence. And like I said, I wish I could show you videos what I've seen. So what I did was I actually went and I looked at my backyard. I looked at trying to make sure that when they went outside, they were safe. And I did consider a 6-foot fence until I did research, and it said a coyote can clear and climb a 6-foot fence. So then I went and I said, okay, so then I looked into getting the rollers, because I watch like a lot of animal shows, and I watched, where they have the rollers, the coyote rollers, where people who have cats in their backyard and they want the other cats to come into their yard. I did look into that. But I just felt, like I said, I looked and they can't climb and they can't get over a 8-foot fence. I mean, unless they're super, but determination will. But primarily, it's not going to. An 8-foot fence seemed to be the magical number. Between 7.5, 8 foot was pretty much the ideal. Because I've seen where they project it. They'll have a fence, and then they'll show like projected of how tall a coyote can jump and everything else. And they said they can easily, without any kind of issue, clear a 6-foot fence. So.
Mark, does that answer your question?
No, I asked a very specific question. What alternatives were considered?
The other alternatives were to not take them in the backyard. The other
I'm talking about structurally. Did you consider any other types of structure to accomplish protection of the dogs? I'll give an old-fashioned, let's say an old-fashioned dog run with a chain link fence with a cover on it. Did you consider that? Because there's no way the coyote could get into that. It's basically a cage. If your concern really is coyotes, that would really protect them for 100%, and also from birds of prey.
Yeah, that's true. I'm going to be out there with them. I mean, I don't want to go outside and then put my dog in the cage.
I just asked a very simple question. What other options were considered? And you have answered it. Thank you.
Anybody else have any more comments, questions? Mark, you feel that you're in favor of just a 6-foot high fence with rollers on it, right?
No.
Okay.
No, I think that the proposal, I'm not convinced that this proposal is going to protect the dogs.
So you're thinking an 8-foot fence isn't going to make a difference? If she goes 8 foot, a coyote still may get over it?
Or under it, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
I read that coyotes are proficient climbers, and like I said, as a child, my dog used to climb the fence. We actually put electrical wires on the fence, you know, cattle to keep our dog in the yard when I was a kid. So I don't like voting for something that I'm not convinced is going to solve the problem.
Okay. Mrs. Ruffin?
Yes.
Your fence is a vinyl fence, right? It's not a chain link
Yes.
fence?
No fence chain link.
Okay.
I had a chain link fence in my other house, and what happens is over the years, they rust, they tear, they just fall
Okay.
apart.
Okay. Anybody else? Would anybody like to put a motion forward?
I'm sorry, Gary, I was late on the mute. Can I put one more comment?
Go
in?
ahead, Sandy.
The only thing I'd say to Mark's comment, I appreciate what you're saying, and I guess I just look back to the reasons for granting approval being unusual hardship, the land behind them affecting the neighbors, things like that, and I think generally she checks the boxes of not creating another a decreased value, that kind of thing. I don't know that I disagree with you on whether or not it's the right answer or not, or whether it solves the problem or not. I think, I'm with you. I'm not a coyote expert to know whether it works or not, but I understand the concern. I'm just not sure that, from my perspective, that is necessarily a reason to not grant, to prohibit the approval. So that's just my opinion.
Somebody like to put a motion forward?
I'll go ahead, Gary. Gary.
Okay.
I would make a motion to approve the request based on the characteristics of the property, and that it's not an undue burden on the neighbor or neighborhood or beyond the intent of the code.
Does anybody like to second that?
Teresa will second.
Kathy, is the motion set correctly? Does he have to add anything else to it?
No, it's correct.
Okay.
Mr.
Would you
Chair.
take a vote, please?
Mr. Abathera,
Yes.
Ms. Brooks,
Yes.
Mr. Deserman,
Yes.
Mr. Friesen,
Yes.
and Mr. Miller.
Nope.
Motion carries.
You're all set, Mrs. Ruffin. You're all set for your fence.
Thank you. Say thank you. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Do I drop off now or do I stay
Yes.
on?
Yep, no, sign off, please.
And then I'll get something in writing?
You will just get in touch with me for the permit. And
Okay.
just, you can call me later and I'll guide you through it.
Thank you. And thank you, Jackie.
Our next bit of business is,
Welcome.
our next bit is communications. Do we have any communications, Jackie?
We do not.
Next one will be public comment. Is there any public comment out there?
There's been no public comments submitted via
Okay.
email, voicemail, and I do not see any attendees that have joined the meeting.
Okay. We'll go to our miscellaneous business. Is there any miscellaneous business? I'm not sure I'm liking the Zoom meeting too much. And the last one's adjourned. We're adjourned.